Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. Today we're going to take a look at some models that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't. They've been around in the 3D printing game here for quite some time, and they are a sculptor that I've had my eyes on for many a year. And I'll be honest, the only reason it's taken me this long to get around to discussing them is because the overwhelming majority, if not all of their work, has been unsupported. But with the current technology behind most of the slicers for 3D printers, that has become less and less of an issue. And when you see some of these models, you'll kind of understand why it was such a daunting task to me as I bounce and jiggle the camera. So in front of us is a nice looking rat marine that comes to us courtesy of Mad Minis, who is who we're going to be talking about today. And for the most part, he is relatively cleaned up. It was actually quite a nice sculpt. This is one of the freebie ones. And it was originally part of a crowdfunding campaign for guardsman rodents of both trader and imperial design, which was kind of fun. And then they just went all in with the various types of possible rats of the grim, dark, far future. And yeah, there's a lot. But the thing is, this one especially is kind of on the large side. As you can see here, the piece of tactical debris there probably isn't helping all that much. It was an interesting campaign, and there were a ton of different designs available. And I gotta say, for the most part, the sculpts were really nicely organic, well posed, thought out, all that jazz. But that's not what we're going to really spend our time talking about today. Well, you can check that out, obviously. No, Mads Minis really got their niche of the 3D printing realm carved out for the ladies that they've done. And their ladies tend to be incredibly unique. For the most part, they are quite buxom, quite busty, and not exactly human. So, yeah, this is just straight off the printer. I didn't do the best job, but that's okay. I just wanted to get you guys kind of an idea. As you can see, she's got the look at the thickness of the thighs and the ridiculously thin torso. They are a very, very specific style of model. Some of you may enjoy that, some of you may not, but there's some unique looking figures that exist within the various formations and squads that Mads Minis has put out at this point. So oftentimes, like I said, not very human. I don't know if this is armor. I don't want to know. They have these weird swords. This set, I don't remember what half of these are called, so I'm not even going to attempt it, but they've got some really bizarre, interesting names. But you can see it has two handles there, which I thought was kind of a fun, funky, different approach to a great sword. And again, they're pretty big ladies. Now, it's not all ladies that they've done, but that seems to be kind of the bread and butter behind a lot of the models that they've done. This one's pretty tame by Mad's standards. Looking at some of the more interesting ones I picked up, and you'll start to see where I really had my reservations about trying to do the removals. They've got tails, they've got scarf whip things, dual blades, big breasts, thin waist, and giant thighs and hips. They're just interesting models. What are they supposed to be? What are they used for? You know what? I don't care. That's half the fun. But they're also very fragile looking. So I'm always kind of hesitant to really go with these. And like I said, I'll be honest, these figures were a very interesting draw to me just because of their difference in just design. I'm guessing this is the more corn aligned faction of the various groups they've made at this point. I printed a few of this unit. I just like the dual blades. You can see here, I mean, at standard size, they're a little bit taller than a Marine. Most of them fitting on a 32mm base with no issues. So far. So far being the important word. The ones that really got my attention, I'll be honest, I'm assuming this is kind of the Zinchian faction, are these single-horned, one-armed samurai ladies. And again, with the very distinct, specific proportions. And while the print here is a little bit shiny, there is a lot of detail that's still going to be involved in them. I'm looking forward to painting these, and I have a feeling that they're going to end up in very Nasir Wrath of Kings colors, for those of you who want to get really obscure at this point. I love the Nasir models. And again, I kind of went all in printing a few of the one-armed, one-horned, flying purple people eater samurai lady things. And they also almost all have combat heals. I don't know if this is skin, I don't know if it's armor, I don't know what it is. And again, to me, that's half the fun. Is there lore behind them? Absolutely. But, you know, I think some of those kinds of things are best left unsaid and left open to the imagination. Nobody wants to stand on these bases. The contact points, unfortunately, are kind of small and thin. Got one ready for action. I can see here, just looking at them under a 4x zoom, that I am going to have to do a little bit better job cleaning them up prior to actually hitting them with paint, but that's something at least that the primer is going to help with. We have a bit more normal ones, look like enforcers for a bar or something. I'm thinking that she's wearing pants. Got shoes at least. Another one cruising for a bruising here. Some of these I might actually scale up a little bit. I think that might help also with the contact points and keeping them stable. Obviously we're going to have to put a lot of debris on those bases just to kind of get things nice and sturdy. This was an interesting one. Looks like some kind of a bondage outfit with a cool jacket thing, armor, and a very large crossbow that doesn't seem to have done the best job of printing. That's on me. Again, none of these faces, well, some of the faces do tend to have eyes, but they kind of tend to be very inset in the details, and I don't think that's the natural face. Probably one of my favorite is this large, heavy weapons girl here. The giant tail. I'm assuming that those cords are supposed to be just kind of hanging off of the base, like so. Again, she is pretty large. Maybe it's a possible obliterator or something. Havoc Marines? I don't know what you wanted to use it for. But the interesting thing is it's not just the crazy, weird monster ladies, which again, if that's something you're into, they got you covered in all kinds of varieties. And trust me, there are some wild models. Wild enough to the point where I don't trust myself printing them, because I will, and I mean definitely, inevitably break some of them immediately, and I don't want to do that. There's a lot of talent and interesting designs there that I would hate to ruin myself. There's been some vaguely Infinity-styled aliens, and the nice thing is everything that I'm showing you, almost every single set has at least 5 to 10 various poses. Some of them I'm not a fan of. That's going to be one of my main criticisms of Mad's stuff, is that sometimes the poses tend to be very stiff. So, kind of stiff in its presentation. I mean, obviously, it's natural that humans do stand straight, but I like to see a little bit more variance, and I feel like in the newer models, you know, that's been more noticeable in that how things are posed. Jesus, she's got some thick thighs. Her thighs are bigger than a Space Marine head. Another of the vaguely Infinity-styled humanoid aliens. I managed to break the skirt armor there, but for the most part, I guess it looks okay. Besides various alien factions, they have a human faction, and this is actually one of the first models I wanted to print out. I thought it was kind of a fun one. That is a ridiculously large gun. And there's a whole squad of those kinds of figures. There is a quasi Egyptian sci-fi cybernetic themed group. Head's giving me vaguely blame nostalgia or something here. I like this figure. Again, crazy proportions. gigantic gun. And then look at the size of those feet. Is it male, female? It doesn't matter. It's a robot of some sort. It's going to need something to help keep it upright. I absolutely think this is going to have to be pinned, but that's going to be a challenge because those feet are so thin to the point that I'm probably going to need to put like some debris or something behind the legs just to keep it supported. So, I mean, there, and then again, this guy got a squad of like 3 of them at least for the larger models, but there's just some wild stuff. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, and if this looks like something of interest to you, absolutely you should give it a look. And I would say that even if the large ladies aren't exactly your thing, do take a look at the rats as well. The rodent campaign had a huge variety of stuff, and the rats and stuff really weren't overly sexualized. So if that's something that is a bit of an issue for you on the tabletop, and I mean not to say that all of even their female models, while being voluptuous even in heavy armor, you know, it's reasonable. Definitely can't say she's not well-armored. Well-armored, if we can get the words out correctly. The only real issue, I think, is going to be making sure that you have your supports all nice and updated, because I tried some of these way back when I first stumbled across their stuff, and it was a disaster in terms of getting things supported. Thankfully, nowadays, auto supports really do a much better job. So, like I said, I think now is the time. If you haven't had a chance to check out their work, no time like the present, right? So with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye!